stocky woman with a heavy face and large, sad brown eyes that made her look like some old family dog. Felicity roused herself from her reverie. "After all, Miss Chubb," she said, "there is surely no one left of a marriageable age in the vicinity." "I have heard talk," said Miss Chubb, "about Lord St. Dordy." "I know about him. He is in his 50s and has been married twice before. Also, he was not invited to the wedding, which shows a blessed lack of interest in him. He would have been invited had he not been on the grand tour." "Indeed. I thought only very young men went on the grand tour." "It is said that the Baron has been several times," said Miss Chubb. "My stepfather does not know me very well. He will find it difficult to force me into marriage with anyone." Miss Chubb forbore from depressing her young friend by pointing out the obvious, that a woman did not have any say in the matter, never had, and never would. "I would not be too nice in my choice of gentlemen," mused Felicity, her chin on her hand. "I must admit that neither Penelope nor Emily seems to have any complaints, and Penelope has those darling children. Children must be a great comfort." "Do you not have romantic dreams?" asked Miss Chubb, who had a great many herself. "Oh, no, not I," said Felicity with a laugh. "I am eminently practical, but I would have freedom of choice, you know, and not be treated like some slave. I mean to have a say. Neither of my 3 sisters ever tried saying no." "Perhaps they knew it would not have been of much use," ventured Miss Chubb cautiously. "Pooh! They are afraid of Mr. Palfrey, but I am not. It is early yet. Has he retired?" "I do not think so," said Miss Chubb. "One of the guests at the wedding breakfast spilt wine on the dining-room floor, and just before I came up to join you, he was screaming at the housemaids and saying that no one must rest until the floor was restored to its former glory." Felicity sighed. Due to Mr. Palfrey's finicky tastes, Tregarthen Castle was like a museum. It was not a medieval castle, but a relatively modern one, a sort of folly built in the middle of the last century by her grandfather, who had had romantic tastes. It even had a moat with a drawbridge, turrets with arrow slits, and great metal cauldrons on the battlements for pouring boiling oil down on the invading troops, who had lived only in her grandfather's active imagination. Inside, everything was polished to a high shine. Precious objects lay embedded in silk in rows of glass cases, for Mr. Palfrey was a great collector of objets d'art. Not a cobweb, not a speck of dust was allowed to sully any surface. The servants were overworked and consequently surly. Only this nursery up under the leads had been spared Mr. Palfrey's collecting and cleaning zeal. It was cluttered with some of the furniture he considered too old-fashioned for the staterooms below stairs, including 2 fine Chinese Chippendale chairs and a carved William and Mary chest. "Let us dress up and go out," said Felicity suddenly. Miss Chubb looked scared. Sometimes she and Felicity would dress up in men's clothes and ride to the nearest tavern. It was a small adventure, because they usually went out when Mr. Palfrey was visiting in London, and there could be no chance of their absence being noticed. The only servant in on the secret was the head groom, John Tremaine, who detested Mr. Palfrey with a passion, and who only stayed on out of loyalty to the remaining Channings. Felicity was still too young to realize it was most odd for an old and seemingly conventional governess to agree to such mad escapades, and did not yet even guess how very romantic and starved for adventure was poor Miss Chubb. "Mr. Palfrey might come looking for you," said Miss Chubb. "To kiss me good night. You know he never pays me the slightest heed." "Miss Felicity, he is a fussy and ambitious man, ambitious to have the castle to himself. He will be anxious to arrange a marriage for you as soon as possible, and may call you downstairs to discuss the matter. You may remember that Maria was sent for just after Emily had gone off with her new husband." Yes, but Maria's bishop had been selected for her some time before Emily's marriage. You must admit there is no one left for me, thank goodness." "You forget Lord St. Dordy." "Now, my dear Miss Chubb, the Baron is abroad, and he's too old even for my wicked stepfather to consider asking him to marry me, so there is no question of him sending for me. He is probably down on his hands and knees at this moment, polishing the dining-room floor himself." Miss Chubb hesitated. She thought she had overheard Mr. Palfrey saying something about the Lord St.